Hi all, welcome to the final whistle for another match preview. We take on the Seagulls, a side who you could say are in some very good form under the new manager as well. We've got Aaron joining us from Albion Obsessed. He will be giving me a preview. It's what to expect from the Seagulls come Saturday afternoon. We'll go through team selection. We'll go through Leicester's games with Brighton, of course. We'll go through foot in both camps. We'll ask Aaron about some of the players that's played for both clubs. We'll obviously talk about the game, what happened last time in the Premier League. As a Leicester fan, we don't want to talk about it, but we're going to have to. We're going to see what's different from when we last played them to now. If you're a Leicester fan, nothing's changed. Brendan Rodgers is still here, and it could have been a game that Brendan Rodgers got the sack, but obviously Leicester have kept with him, and there we have it. So remember to smash a like for me if you enjoyed tonight's stream. Subscribe if you haven't already. Be really much appreciated. We're on the road to 1.1k. So the next 100. So if you can subscribe and you're new to the channel, please do so. Let's get this match preview underway then, and I'll see you in just a minute. Hi all, welcome to the final whistle for the Leicester City versus Brighton and Hove Albion match preview. I'll be joined shortly by Aaron from Albion Obsessed. It's going to be a good chat, this one. We'll talk about Brighton's season. We'll talk about Leicester. We'll get Aaron's views on Leicester City. But yeah, get your views in, as always. Mayan, good evening, mate. Hope you're well. Smash a like if you enjoyed the match preview. Also, be sure to hit the subscribe button if you enjoy our content. Let's get the man in himself, tonight's guest, Mr. Aaron Stevens from Albion Obsessed. Aaron, how are you, mate?
Evening, mate. Very well. Thank you very much for having me on.
No, pleasure. Aaron, as you're tonight's guest, mate, from Albion Obsessed, tell us what you do then with Albion Obsessed.
So we started up the podcast maybe 2 years back now. Joe, who was the original guy who set it all up, and it's been going strength to strength. We've been doing so much stuff on social media recently, and we just give our honest opinions on the games, previews, sort of reactions to lots of things. And to be fair, we're going strength to strength. And I started doing this probably about a year or a half ago. And I love it. Yep. And I love it. I'm sort of the Mr. Negative, I would like to say, from the realist, I would say, on the podcast.
Appreciate that.
But no, I love it. I love doing it, and everyone's class. And like I said, we're going strength to strength, and I love it.
It's good to have people who have different opinions and share different opinions in it, because that's what you want. You want it to be negative and positive. If you want to be straight up, don't you, Aaron? If things ain't going well and stuff like that, and if things are going well, then you express your opinion in it. That's what I like about podcasts.
100%. And if I could guarantee the Albion Obsessed listeners would definitely say I'm that sort of person. Even when there's positive to say, there will be negatives, and when we are playing poorly, I will say it how it is. And I think that's just the way I always have been, to be fair.
Yeah, so Aaron, you're 7th in the table. Graham Potter did well at the start of the season. He had a great managerial career at Brighton. He then went to Chelsea. And then you brought in this man, Roberto De Zerbi, the manager.
What a man.
How have you fared? I mean, Graham Potter's football was still there, wasn't it, when he first took over? he didn't really have his stamp on things, but then as soon as he's put his stamp on things, you beat Chelsea. You've beat quite a lot of teams. You've had a good run at home, only losing to like Arsenal, who are really a good side this season. But talk to me about both sides of the season under Graham Potter and Mr. Roberto De Zerbi.
Well, we started off really under Potter at the start of the season, similar to how we finished the season before. We were playing fantastic football. We were actually starting to score goals. And then we were playing still lovely football. Even under De Zerbi, now we were playing fantastic football. But what I remember reading somewhere De Zerbi came in maybe after the first 2 or 3 games. It was like Potter's style of football, but with 100 shots of espressos taken, because everyone was just on it. It was so much quicker, so much sort of more intent attacking wise, and we've gone strength to strength. And I think, yes, Potter laid their foundations to where we are now, but I feel like De Zerbi's taken us to a whole different dimension. Just the way we attack now is genuine with threat every time. And beforehand, we would have sort of thing with the formation change from playing 5 at the back to standard 4, which with De Zerbi, we're playing without and out wingers, and that just helps everyone. It seems like we're actually scoring goals now, which is a massive plus for me personally. And I think everyone would say that's watched Brighton it seems a bit more enjoyable now. Like, we play fantastic football under Potter, but we always seem to, all they're missing is a striker. All they're missing is goals, which even to a certain extent we still are, but we're now finding goals from elsewhere. So Ferguson, Matoma, McAllister's pepped in, Lallana, instead of just relying on Welbeck last year, which, Welbeck's pushing on a bit. He's not gonna bag you 20 goals a year. No. And I think, prime example is Solly March from this year.
He's picked up a lot, hasn't he?
He has. And I was one of those players that didn't rate Solly March. And to a certain degree, De Zerbi's changed him. And that's all credit to him. And it just proves that every single week it's exciting to watch Brighton now. Doesn't matter who we play against, you feel like you can beat them. Like, we went into Saturday against Liverpool, and I was confident. I never thought I'd say that. I've been watching Brighton since the early 2000s, and I never thought I could say I'm confident about going into a Premier League game against one of the best teams in the world, and we will beat them. It's surreal, and that's credit to Potter, and also massive credit to De Zerbi.
Yeah, talk to me about the football under De Zerbi. I mean, I watched the video the other day. I was watching the Liverpool game. It was against Liverpool, and they was marking it all out. And he's a possession-based manager, isn't he? But he does it with intent. And the way you guys move the ball, it's threatening to see. And the way you talk to me about the season as a whole. I mean, what was your expectations for Brighton before the start of the season? What would you have expected? Where would you have liked to finish to where you are now?
Mid-table. I still would have taken sort of 9th, similar to last year.
Yeah.
To be honest, anywhere above Palace for me is a bonus. And just like I said, the style of football we've been playing is fantastic to really witness. The possession, we're with the possession, but we're with massive intent when we have the ball. So we have Cornwell, who's actually going to be out for a couple of months with an injury picked up this week. Yeah. That's going to be a massive blow for us, because he sort of dictates when we start that sort of quick switch from possession into attack. He'll just stand on the ball for sort of 5-6 seconds, let the players come to him, and then 3 or 4 passes, and we're on the attack. And that's been so key. And under Potter, we were keeping the ball for the sake of it. And now I think with De Zerbi, we keep the ball and then we can switch in an instant, and it's fantastic. I can't explain how enjoyable it is to watch. Like, it's just fantastic, and to see how much each player's improved under him as well is awesome. It can only get better this year. If I'm honest, I don't think we'll finish in Europe.
Yeah,
I still think we'll finish 8th or 9th. Mm-hmm. I just feel like teams around us eventually will start picking up the likes of Liverpool, Chelsea, etc. And we'll finish 8th or 9th, and I'll take that all day long. All day long.
Yeah. Start of the season, you lost Neil Maupay to Everton. This window, you've lost Leandro Trossard to Arsenal. How do Brighton changing them ways. You know, like you sell a player and then they go and look for a player. Brighton look like they're signing these players who fit the module well. I mean, Morpie's been replaced well. Trossard, you know, sold this January. Brighton are already on the lookout for the next player, you know. But Brighton are careful in the way they go about things, aren't they, when it comes to transfers?
Very much so. And I think that's credit to the recruitment team, David Weir, who's our sort of head analyst, and Bloom and Paul Barber, etc. I think they've do a fantastic job in that sense. Now, to lose Morpie at the start of the year wasn't a particularly big surprise, to be honest. And I still think we probably should have replaced him because, you know, we've only really two strikers then would be Welbeck and Trossard. And we didn't. But that's not an issue. You know, we will crack on, and it's helped because we've had Trossard playing through the middle. Now we've lost Trossard, which to me, like I said off air, is generally not a problem for me. I think we've got players coming through, you know, likes of Enciso, Sacramento, got a new lad from Argentina as well, who's even like the likes of Tevez and Messi have said he will be a phenomenal player. We won't see him till February because I think he's at the under-20s World Cup, I think, if I remember rightly. But the way we do business, I think, is a credit to us as a club. Like, we don't go out, we don't spend big money, we think and invest in the future, which I think is a massive thing. You know, and I think credit to the recruitment team and to Tony Bloom, the chairman himself, because we're getting big money for these players and we're investing in young talent at a pretty good price, and you can't really go wrong with that. And not many teams in the Premier League have that sort of philosophy.
Yeah, you also obviously sold Dan Burn, didn't you? You got rid of Dan Burn. You got rid of the Spanish fullback as well, didn't you? The one who went to Chelsea.
Yeah, that was...
How have Brighton managed, with key players leaving the club, how have they managed? They've transpired into... People would have called them Little Brighton. Yeah. But now look at Brighton, the way they are. They remind me of Leicester, how Leicester was in the 2016 season, where they'd sell their prize assets, but they bring in these players who people say they're not good enough. But then they prove it, and look where it's got you in that. I think the manager plays a massive part in that, doesn't he? To deserve it.
Yeah, 100%. And to be fair, even Potter, I think Potter again has to, you know, take some credit for the likes of Burn and Kukurea. You know, obviously losing Kukurea at the start of the season for me was a bit of a blow because he was fantastic, and then obviously Potter decided to snake us and join Chelsea, and you know, in hindsight, it's a blessing in disguise. But for me, when we sell a player, we would already have a replacement in mind, whether it's at the club or whether it's in the transfer market. We wouldn't sell a player for the sake of it. No. I think when we had Dan Burn gone, you know, we still had cover at centre half. You know, we were not fantastic cover, but we still had cover. Kukurea's gone. Well, then we'll just play March wing back, which is not his strongest position by any stretch of the imagination, but there's still options there. And I think the way we go forward, as a club in general, I think we won't change our philosophy in our signings and in our selling. We'll set a set price for a player. If you don't meet that price, you don't get that player. And I think that's the way I think most clubs should run, but it's not the way it happens, obviously.
No. Before we move on to the Leicester game, talk to me about this game. The last Premier League game you guys played, 3-0 against Liverpool. You tore them apart. I don't know what Trent Alexander-Arnold was doing when it flicked it over his head, and he just stood there still, and Brighton scored. I mean, talk to me about that game, Aaron. How good of it was it in a performance against Liverpool?
I think that was probably the best performance we've had in the Premier League era, I think. Yeah. For us, probably not the one it meant more to the fans. I think the Chelsea one meant more to the fans than that one. But overall, as a performance, it was spot on. Like, don't get me wrong, Liverpool were absolutely dreadful. And I'm talking up there with one of the worst teams I've seen this season at the Amex. And that's saying something because I've watched Forest play and they were god-awful. And we just tore them apart. They just couldn't cope. I said in our preview show that Trent Alexander-Arnold is defensively inept. He can't defend.
Yep.
And Matoma is going to absolutely tear him a new one. And he did. Every time he got the ball, he just looked terrified. And just, I think if Liverpool even were on top form, we still would have beat them. Because everything was clicking. Lallana was like watching him 6-7 years ago. He was just dictating the play. It was fantastic. He was one of his best displays in a Brighton shirt since we signed him. Defensively, we look solid. Going forward, we look like a threat every single time. And that itself gives confidence to not only the fans, but to the players. Christ, we kept a clean sheet against one of the world's best teams. So it's only going to brew confidence. And knowing little old Brighton, it will probably end up we'll lose on Saturday, knowing us. So that's how we seem to do things.
Well, we'll see. Not after our Leicester played against Nottingham Forest and lost. Yeah, it wasn't a great sighting at City Ground, but we got beat by the better side. I thought Leicester season's been bloody more downs and ups. But we move on to the game at the King Power Stadium. Leicester City take on Brighton Hove Albion. League positions, table, 15th Leicester, 7th Brighton. Talk to me about Leicester, Aaron, first, before we talk about Brighton going into this one. What's your thoughts on Leicester? They're 15th. They're 2 points off the bottom. They've been about there and abouts all season. What is your thoughts on Leicester, mate, this season? You've been big surprised? Or
very much so. Very much so. I think you're always a team that you would sort of associate to be where we are, realistically, sort of 7th and 8th and knocking about in sort of Europa League sort of area in the table, and it just doesn't seem to have happened. Injuries have happened, of course, which is key. We've been lucky in that sense. We haven't really had a lot of injuries, where you guys have been hit hard. I think, if I'm honest, losing Kasper Schmeichel and not replacing him is a big issue. I think Danny Ward's gradually grown into being a number one. I still don't think he is a number one.
No, me neither.
I'm a keeper myself, and at the start of the season, he was making some really strange choices and really big mistakes. And that as a centre halves, if you don't trust your keeper, then you're going to be struggling all year, and that's what it's looked like. It just generally looks like the confidence is gone. Do you feel like you need a change in manager? Maybe. Do you reckon Rodgers is getting to that point now where he's taken this team as far as he can? Then who would you get in? And it's probably at the moment there isn't really anyone else out there that who could change the whole entire circumstances at the club. It's only really that the players can do that, and you've got fantastic players.
Yep.
Maddison, Barnes, even Vardy still in his day. Vardy always is a threat against us. I know Tillemans, granted, he's at the end of his contract, isn't he, this year?
Yeah, he is.
But he's still different gravy. You walk into top 4 teams around Europe with ease. You're individually, you've got some fantastic players, but something's not right. Something's not clicking, and it's shown in the way you are in the league.
Yeah, I agree. As a fan myself watching Leicester, I do feel Brendan's taken us as far as he can. We're not going to get any more out of Rodgers. Rodgers has never been in this position. He was never in it at Celtic. He was never in it at Swansea. He was never in that position at Liverpool. This is the first time he's really been in this relegation thing. But he seems to overlook it. It's never my fault. It's the players. It's the board. It's this. It's that. But I think with Leicester, you can't just blame the manager due to the transfers. I mean, yes, they've got to communicate, but the board have got to sit there. If they're going to back him, they've got to back him, haven't they? It's either back him or sack him.
Yeah, 100%.
At the end of the day, you've got to back your manager. And if the manager's not being backed and you're not bringing the players in, you're just degrading on the squad at the end of the day. The squad's going to get injuries. You're not going to have enough to see out the season. And I think that's what's happened at Leicester. We sold for 475 million to Chelsea. We brought in Alex Smithies. We brought in Wout Faes for £15 million from Stade Reims. No one ever even heard of him. They just called him the next David Luiz. But then the results. I mean, the first 8 games of the season, shocking by Leicester. We're going to actually talk about Leicester and Brighton. Played 42 games against each other. Leicester's won 19. Brighton's won 15. 8 draws between the two sides. But this is the game I want to talk to you about, and this has been a right big one this season to where how bad we've actually been. I mean, last time round versus Brighton, we lost 5-2. 5-2. I mean, I don't know what happened. I mean, we took the lead. Brighton obviously went back in, come back in at us again. But then Daka and Nacho, obviously they grabbed a goal between them both, didn't they?
Yeah.
But then Brighton, you know, Leicester's defence are at 6s and 7s. The team folded in that second half. You destroyed us. Absolutely destroyed us. The team didn't know what to do. And I think with Brendan, there's never been a plan B. There's always been a plan A, but when plan B comes into it, he ain't got one. He ain't got a clue. It's like, we'll stick with the same formula and it'll carry on. But as a manager, you've got to have that backup plan. If you ain't got a backup plan, then it ain't worth being a manager. You know, Guardiola's the same. You're watching him last night against Spurs. They were 2-0 down. Then Man City come back and won 4-2. But then he said after the game, there's no fight, no passion, no determination. And that was exactly that, Aaron, at the Amex in the season. Leicester didn't show nothing in that game. Yes, we scored, but Brighton absolutely demolished us. And that could have been Brendan's last game. The fans were calling for his head. They wanted him out, but he's still here. But talk to me about that game, Aaron, as a Brighton fan from a perspective of both sides.
I think when we went 1-0 down in the first minute, I generally feared the worst. I was thinking, here we go. I was like, you know, we seem to, like I said, we seem to struggle against you guys. You know, we draw a lot, thinking, you know, yes, we've got 89 minutes to get back on top. And it seemed to, like, when you scored, you seemed to didn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
You seemed a little bit stunned and a bit like, oh, all right, what do we do now then?
It's the first time we've ever been ahead in a game.
Yeah. It's like, do we sit back? What do we do? And then, you know, we equalised after, what, I think it's 10 minutes, wasn't it? I think their own goal from the right. And then we just went on strength to strength from that point. You know, Caicedo got us 2-1 up, and Daka equalised. But that second half was just an onslaught, and probably the best attacking display under Potter we had. Because every attack, it was similar to what we're like now.
It was frightening.
Every attack we scored, and it should have been 6-2. Because McAllister scored an absolute thunderbolt that nearly ripped the net off and for some reason disallowed for offside.
Yeah.
And it could have been 7 or 8 or 9 if we took our chances. And that in itself is terrifying. Not even from a Brighton fan point, but as a Leicester sort of fan, you must have been thinking, what on earth is happening?
Lack of confidence.
Because, you know, we're still reasonably new boys in the Premier League. You know, you're Premier League champions. You know, you've won the Premier League. You've been in it for some time, and for us to sort of tear apart a very good Leicester team like that, it was, I think, really when we thought we could be onto something this year. And then obviously that was Potter's last game, and everything's changed around since then. But we've still looked very, very strong. Yeah,
you absolutely folded us second half. Yeah. You know, the free kick, the penalty.
I like that comment. You like Gross. So it's funny enough. I was actually a Gross hater. I didn't like him under Potter because I felt like he slowed the game down too much.
Yeah.
But under De Zerbi, he is a changed man. It was ridiculous, generally. So he just seemed to, when we had Gross on the ball under Potter, he would take a touch and he would turn back inside and play backwards or sideways. And that was always my biggest criticism of him. But this year he's been superb. Can't knock him.
Talk to me about last time round at the KP, which was last season. Patson Daka opened the scoring for the Foxes. And then I think Welbeck scored for you lot. One where Schmeichel thought it was going wide, but somehow it went in. Talk to me about that game, Aaron. I mean, how much have Brighton improved since obviously the 5-2, since you played us last season? How much have you guys improved as a squad? I mean, you lot look phenomenal. You've got a good goalkeeper. You've got good midfielders. You've got a defence which will battle for everything now. Does that show how important the manager has been around since he's come in, Roberto De Zerbi? Do you think that shows on the pitch now how much they actually trust him as a manager?
100%, 100%. I feel like the players are really brought into his philosophy, and I think you'll see a very, very different Brighton team that you saw last time with the King Power.
Yeah,
I think we're still very solid. We still don't, concede many goals, but as an attacking threat, we're well above where we were last year.
I
I think
agree.
that's one thing you'll be not surprised. I think in a way you may enjoy it because it'd be seeing a whole different side to us as a club.
I think we're
And
worried more than hotels, Aaron.
I
It's not
think
one of them.
Yeah, I think the one player you've got to look out for is Matoma. He's come in this year and he's blown
Fantastic
the
player,
league
yeah.
away. Oh, he's been fantastic. Bear in mind, he was a university student like 2 or 3 years back, and then he's tearing up the Premier League. It's crazy. We've got our centre halves are outstanding. Lewis Dunk is Brighton through and through.
He's not the quickest, but he gets the job done.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, and he doesn't need to be quick. He just needs to. He's got a footballing brain, so he can be that sort of 2 steps in front. Granted, he does make mistakes. He does do stupid things every now and again, and that's why maybe a couple of years back we would push him to be in the England squad. Now probably not so much because he's getting on a bit. I mean, he's 31 now, so I think that peak sale. But Saturday will be where you'll see a very different Brighton team, and hopefully, touch wood, we'll come out with 3 points.
Yeah, that's the worrying thing. We're being a Leicester fan at the minute. We don't know what to expect from the Foxes. Yeah. It's been a poor season. I know after the Tottenham game, we went in to the international break. We then played Forest. We won. We then played Bournemouth. We lost. We thought, we ain't turned the corner since Forest game. And then we beat Leeds. We beat Everton. We picked up points against Palace. We beat Wolves. We beat West Ham. But if you look at them games, they're teams who have been at the foot of the table for quite a lot of margin this season who don't seem to know where the goal is. If they could find the goal, they'd have beat us. But we took the chances on the day and we got the 3 points which we needed. Leicester are on form. But then we've come back from the World Cup, lost to Newcastle 3-0, lost to Liverpool 2-1, lost to Fulham, and lost 2-0 to Forest. I mean, we've scored against Gillingham in the Cup. I mean, we'd expect to score against Gillingham. I'm not saying they're a very poor side, but, against League Two competition, you expect to score, don't you, at least? If you don't, clearly there's a problem. But we've not been the best since coming back. Barnes has been poor. Luke Thomas has been poor. But I don't want to single out players. You look at it as a whole team performance, but then the manager's got to be able to change it as well. But I think we've missed Maddison massively. They have some unreal players, let's be honest. I like mostly. Yeah, Brighton's have turned. Brighton are something we want to be this season as Leicester fans. We want to be up there. That's where we want to be where you are. That's where we wanted to be at the start of the season, but things ain't panned out. Hi, lad. Brighton will score without a doubt. We just need to make sure we match them. Yeah, we've got to go toe-to-toe, make it a difficult game.
Yeah, if you don't go toe-to-toe with any opponent,
no, you lose.
You're going to struggle. Yeah, you're going to struggle. And I imagine you boys will be up for it because you're in front of your home crowd. You haven't won since the World Cup. You want to, apart from the FA Cup, you want to put in a good performance. So you'll be up for it, and no doubt we will be as well.
The atmosphere is like it could be like a pin drop, innit?
Yeah,
tomorrow at KP. Yeah. It's not. There's nothing to like with Leicester at the minute. Obviously, there's quite a lot of negativity around the club, the fans, the club not doing what they should and bringing in the players and strengthening and stuff like that. The fans are pissed off, shall I call it? They're annoyed, and rightfully so. You want to see your club progress. You don't want to see it where it is. We shouldn't be in this. We should never be in this predicament where we are. But look at Everton, West Ham, Wolves.
Yeah, exactly that.
Sides who have been battling for European places in the years. Like Everton were battling it under David Moyes years ago. West Ham have been in there last 2 seasons. Wolves under Nuno Espirito Santo, they were doing bits in Europe. It's surprising to see some of the teams in there, but Everton themselves, I'm not surprised after last season. They was in there, but then they changed it, and now they're back in it again. I just don't feel Lampard is the man to take Everton out of the mess, but then they're fighting amongst each other, the board, the players, and It's just like, what's actually going on?
That whole club is a mess.
It is.
From top to bottom. It's when we played them at the start of the year, this year, we battered them.
Yeah.
Absolutely battered them. And you could just feel when we scored that it was just toxic. The atmosphere was just so toxic, and then it just all fell apart. The boos were horrendous. Even when they came off on Saturday, the boos you could hear were just, I've never heard anything like it. And as an Everton fan, that must be horrendous. Christ, I couldn't think of anything worse being that. Your club going through such an awful run of form, the board you're basically wanting the board out, the players standing on each other, the fans standing on each other.
Not right.
It's a mess. Yeah, it's just a mess.
Let's have a look at the last 5 games at the KP. We've won 3 times and drawn 2 against you guys. Brighton haven't been great at the King Power, have they?
Never have been.
I remember that game. Was it after we won the championship? We got crowned the champions, and then Joa come and scored a hat-trick, and then we signed him the following season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it. That was a horrible game to watch. All the players were still pissed at that point. They were still drinking in their system. Do you know what I mean? We never turned up. But
him and Lingard scored.
Yeah, Lingard.
Remember rightly when we had him on loan.
Shocking.
Even before that, I remember when you got promoted to the Championship, when you had Mickey Adams in charge, and it was, or assistant manager, I can't remember which one it was, and even then we just seemed to struggle. I think we got battered 3-0, I think. And it's just never been a happy hunting ground for us. Never has been.
It's always with Brighton and Leicester, it's always Leicester will beat you at the KP, but Brighton will beat us at the Amex. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a bit of one of them where one can't win one place, but one will win at another. Yeah. And that's what I see with Leicester. That's the resemblance. But you get that with every club. Like Liverpool, you guys have got a good performance thing at Liverpool now. Trossard scored a hat-trick in the 3-3, was it?
3-3, oh yeah. Deserby's first game. Don't think we haven't lost up there for 3 seasons.
See what I mean?
We beat them under Potter. We beat them twice under Potter, and then drew this year.
That's crazy. Let's talk about foot in both camps. Here's the 4 players for you. Talk to me about Anthony Knocker. He was good for Leicester. What was he like at Brighton, Aaron?
He was magnificent. He was a magician. Generally a magician, and he was one of the main reasons why we got promoted. His out-and-out wing play was outstanding. I don't think since Knockout, the only person we've had really with that sort of ability that can drive at players, that can do the skills, dribble, is Matoma now. But other than that, Knockout will never be forgotten for what he did in the Championship. But it's a weird one. From the Championship to the Premier League is a massive step, and he's always one that struggled with that. And I'm not saying for any reason that's his fault. It's just the way it was. But I loved him to bits. I think that year when we got promoted was some of the best football I've seen him play.
Yeah,
can't really argue with that. And obviously onto Ajoa next. Ajoa for me,
he was a good player for us. He was a good as a legend. Won the Premier League. He scored some crucial goals for us in that Premier League winning season. £8 million we paid for Brighton to him, and what a player! I mean, what was he like for you, lot? He was a big part for you, lot, when he
massive
in the Championship.
Massive part. He was something that after losing Murray, we brought in Mikhail Smith, and it was a bit like, all right, well, that's not worked, Mikhail Smith, and where are we going to go next? And Ajoa was the man from Almeria, and he was fantastic. It was just a target man, a big, strong target man. He could finish. His composure was excellent. And in the Championship, that's what you need. You don't need to be quick. You don't have to be skillful. You just got to have a good footballing brain, which Ajoa did. And I think it helped having players around him who would chip him with goals and who would help with assists. He was probably the year we missed out on promotion. After that year, I knew he was going to go because he just had that little bit more quality than everybody else. And £8 million for Leo for me was a very good deal at the time. Very good deal.
Yeah, he was fantastic for us, Joa. Nigel Pearson likes his big men, innit?
Very much so.
He obviously had Steve Harwood. Pearson played with that big striker, and he used it to his advantage. And Joa was fantastic for Leicester. Chipped in with quite a lot of goals, and I thought he was phenomenal. Did his job.
Yeah.
And he's missed to this day, Joa. You know, we need that big man up front again, that big man, little man sort of thing. And Joa played that part, and it always works, but it depends what manager you've got. Talk to me about Chris O'Grady, Aaron. Talk to me about him.
Oh, dearie me, where to start? Yeah, he was our Joa replacement, and he was god awful.
Yeah.
I think we saw his. I remember being at Brentford in the FA Cup. We saw his only goal, and we were taking the mickey beforehand, saying, seeing if O'Grady scores were on the pitch, and then he actually went through and goal and actually finished it really well.
Yeah.
Other than that, he was awful. I think we done our Amex worst X11, and he was up front. Him and Leon Best, if I remember correctly, were up front, and yeah, he just wasn't it. And that's not even me being he just generally just wasn't it at all.
Yeah.
He wasn't what we hoped he was going to be, being, the Joa replacement. Yeah, he's what they call a flop, I think is the word I'm going to use.
Yep. Talk to me about Matthew Upson.
He oozed quality. He is, when we had him and Gordon Greer at the back, it was solid. And you could still see how good he was at that age. Like, he was fantastic. And when we lost in the playoffs, again, he was always going to go a bit higher. One more year. Yeah. And you could just tell he had that Premier League quality in him. Just a shame the players around him at that time didn't. Yeah. And I maintain it to this day. If we went up in the playoffs against Palace or the playoffs against Derby, we would have been relegated by now. We would not have been where we are. We would be, probably mid-table in the Championship.
Yeah.
But he was class. I loved him. Him and Wayne Bridge, watching those two at the Amex, would just, for me, I've seen Wayne Bridge play Champions League games for Chelsea at Highbury. He scored a fantastic goal. Matt Upson, dominating the Premier League for years. To see them at Brighton was baffling. And it still is to this day that we had these players at the club. And when he went off to Leicester, good on him. Good on him.
Yeah, I'll be obsessed here. Aaron is the go. Aaron, I've got the question for you from the Foxes season. Yep. What does Aaron want out of this season for Brighton? Can you actually make Europe, Aaron? I mean, realistically, you're in a good position. Spurs are not playing the greatest of football. Fulham are up there as well. So are Brentford. Can Brighton realistically make Europe? You've got a good run.
I mean,
of games
realistically, my heart says yes. I think we can, but my head's telling me think about it logically. Is we've got the likes of Liverpool, Chelsea below us.
Yeah,
we got big games coming up where, our running's good, but we always seem to struggle against. No, we're not going on a European tour. No,
never say never. Leicester did. It's good.
Don't get me wrong. It would be an absolute dream. It would be an absolute dream. But do I think we will? Like I said, heart says 100%. We'll push Europa League, or Europa Conference. I'll love it. Even if we get Europa Conference, it'll be a fantastic experience. But I just feel like the big boys below us will eventually get into running form, and that's when we'll probably finish on like 8th or 9th. And like I said, anywhere above Palace for me is a successful season. So we take that.
Fantastic. Aaron, I'm going to go first with Leicester for injury news.
Yep.
Maddison and Dewsbury Hall will return to the squad. Maddison's obviously not fit to play, so I'm sure he'll be on the bench. Dewsbury Hall, he had a grade 2 tear in his glute. Brendan said he'd be out for a while, but then Yeah, now we've all of a sudden found out that Dewsbury is going to be back in the squad. Whether he plays or on the bench, who knows? We're going to be missing James Justin. Ricardo's not ready. Johnny Evans still out. Ryan Bertrand. I don't know about Ryan Bertrand. I don't know where he is. But talk to me about Brighton. Any injuries?
So the main injury coming out from what we learned from De Zerbi's post-match interview this morning is, or pre-match interview, I should say. Caldwell was going to be out. He's going to be out for at least sort of 6 to 8 weeks, which is a massive blow for us.
Yeah.
He's sort of the one who dictates how we play. You know, Welbeck's going to be back in the squad. Other than that, to be fair, we're looking fit and ready. I don't think there's nobody else major missing. Obviously, we've no Trossard now. Other than that, I think we're good to go. You know, good to go. Caldwell, like I said, is going to be the big miss. Yeah. I'm not sure who's going to play centre half with Lewis. I think it may be a Premier League debut for Van Heck, who was on loan at Blackburn last year. Got their Player of the Year last year. Looked very good against Borough. Just got to just see how it is on Saturday. This is Saturday afternoon for 2:00. We'll see who's going to be partnering. But other than that, everyone's fit and ready to go.
You mean 3:00?
2:00. 2:00. The teams come out.
Yeah. Damn it, it's good. Van Heck.
Van Heck.
Right, we're going to go through team selection. This is what I picked for Leicester. Danny Ward, Castagno, Amati, Walt Fass, Luke Thomas, and Didi Tillemans. We need Papi Mendy in there to win that midfield battle. I think we'll stick with that. I don't think Vardy will start, I'm afraid. I think I'll go with Patson Daka, Harvey Barnes, and I think Dennis Pratt or Mark Albrighton for me. Yeah. We're going to say no more on how they're actually going to play, though, but it depends which team Leicester turn up. They've got to go head toe-to-toe with Brighton. If they don't, they're going to get absolutely feasted on, like they did it at the Amex. No confidence in the Foxes camp, of course, when it comes to the fans. They think Brighton's going to come in batterers and this, that, and the other. I've heard a few Brighton fans' predictions, 3-0s, 4-0s, and yeah. But realistically, Aaron, talk to me before we move to score prediction, mate. Talk to me about your team selection then for tomorrow.
So it'll be Sanchez in goal. There'll be probably a back four. I'd probably have to go for Gross, Dunk, Van Heck, and Purvis as a left back. I think that'll be the solid four. Obviously, missing Caldwell will be a bit of a blow to that, but I think Van Heck will come in well. Yeah. So this is where I think the concern will be for Leicester is our midfield three of McAllister, Caicedo, and Lallana.
It's the midfield battle, isn't it? What's going to win you the game?
I think that's always key, always is. And then up to forward three of March, who's in probably the form of his life right now.
Great form.
Matoma on the left, and then going through the middle, going Owen Ferguson. I think Ferguson, not many clubs would have seen what he's like.
Yeah.
But he's sort of the similar to what he said about Ajo. He is the target man that we. So
no Danny Welbeck.
No Welbeck for me. I think we start Ferguson.
He always scores against us.
He does. Welbeck will come on. Welbeck
is he on the bench?
He'll be on the bench. Yeah, he'll be on the bench.
Sit him in the stands.
But as a core 11, I think apart from maybe Van Heck, it's not far away from our best 11. Really, that to me, the midfield three will be won or lost for either team. Yeah, and it all depends how your fullbacks defend as well. Because March and Matoma, they could, if they turn up, it's going to be. It generally could be a long afternoon, but it all depends. It all depends on which team turns up. This is what I always say when they ask for my score predictions on the podcast. I say, ask me at 2:00. Ask me at 2, because if the team is what I hope it is, then yeah, fantastic. We'll go on and win. But if I look at it and go, yeah, not sure, head over heart, it could be an easy win. It could be a boring 0-0 draw.
Yeah, I think with Leicester, if we perform how we have in the last bloody 4 Premier League games, we're in trouble. We'll be in right trouble because let me ask you one thing about De Zerbi's play. Does he like to go with the energy from the start? You know how Newcastle played against Leicester, where they really kicked off from the first minute and pressed teams and run it teams and put them right under the cosh from the start. Is that how Brighton like to play? Because if that's how you like to play, we could be in for a long afternoon.
We normally go, not say gun ho is probably the right word, but we seem to do what I call like a mini press.
Yeah,
where we'll just make one or two players we'll just start pressing after the first couple of minutes, and then in the end it'll be Lallana will be the one where he'll just suddenly start pressing all of a sudden just on his own.
yeah.
And all of a sudden 3-4 players are straight on behind him. And then that's where mistakes will happen, how we win the ball back. It's for me. Yes, mate, tell me about it. It's awful. It's awful. Pebbles on the beach, or not even a beach. Just it's horrible. It's like walking on concrete. But yeah, I just don't know how I feel about it. I really don't. It's always an iffy one. Always an iffy one. And if we do go gun ho from the get go, then it could be a long afternoon. But it all depends what Brighton turn up. It all depends what Leicester team turn up. That's where it'll be won or lost. And it sounds so boring me just sitting on the fence, but it really does. At the end of the day, I could be like, it's going to be 6 or 7-0. We're going to run riot, and then we don't turn up and we lose 1-0.
I think with like how you played against Liverpool, and then me watching that video, like the way Brighton played against Liverpool. If you played that against us, we'd make mistakes, and then you get through just like that. But I hope it ain't like that. But if you do play like that, then we're that sort of. You like to get teams to come out, don't you? I think that's how De Zerbi plays. He likes to get teams to come out. Like you said, 6 seconds on the ball. Harvey Barnes could go pressing. Luke Thomas would come out of position, and then you're hitting us over the top or through the middle. But that's your advantage.
It is. Yeah, and that's why I think Caldwell's a massive miss for that, because he seems to have been the one that starts the pressure.
To press. Yeah.
So he starts, and he lets the players come onto him. And like I said, 3 or 4 passes, and all of a sudden we're in on goal. And it can happen that quick. But this is where the difference between De Zerbi and Potter is where if that was under Potter,
there's more fluency in your football.
Yeah, we'd be going side to side, waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
But instead of going
Leicester backwards, sideways, and backwards, and then see what happens, and then we can't seem to get forward. When we do get forward, we go backwards again because there's no going forward.
With De Zerbi, we go sideways, but with intent. So it's bang, quick pass, one pass out wide, Matoma runs.
Yeah,
sprints to the fullback, and then we're in. And it's similar. You'll notice that tomorrow. You'll notice that's how March and Matoma will literally just hug wide as they possibly can for that option. And it depends if Thomas and Castagna are defensively aware of how to defend against that, which they should be. They're Premier League players. They're not stupid. But they're in bad run of form, so they may not have that sort of
cutting
mindset.
Edge.
Cutting edge. Cutting edge is the right word.
Congratulations on passing 1K. Thank you. The last one is then, Aaron. Score prediction, mate. I'm afraid we can't wait till 2 o'clock. I'll
go 2-1 Brighton.
2-1.
Matoma and March with the goals, and it probably will be Vardy to score. He always scores against us. He loves scoring against us.
In his last 9, I believe he scored against Brighton.
So Vardy will get your goal. I reckon we'll take the lead and then you'll equalise and then we'll win it late on. Hopefully, we don't concede because we haven't kept a clean sheet in ages apart from the Liverpool game. We seem to concede stupid goals through stupid defensive errors. In the last sort of 6-7 games, we're just doing silly stuff at the back when we should be cruising. So for me, 2-1 and take the 3 points back down to the South Coast and we go again next week.
Yep. Get your score predictions, guys, in as always. I'm gonna go for a. You know what? I'm expecting a tricky game. I'm expecting a real hard game. It's our Leicester all this season. You can't. There's no confidence in the team to the fans. Do you know what I mean? We're not liking what we see, and it's not changing. It's the same week in, week out. The way we concede one goal, we'll concede a goal, and then we'll fold like we did against Forest. One goal conceded, they ran all over us. Newcastle got 2 goals in 9 minutes, and that was the end of the game. You know, we didn't look like scoring. There's a team when we seem to be lacking in front of goal as well, and I think that's with Harvey Barnes. But I'm going to go 1-1. I'll go 1-1. I think Brighton be a difficult game, but I'm going to go draw. Mayor's got 2-1. KFC Dad's got 1-0. But I'm going to go 1-1 draw. That's the first draw I think I've gone for this season when it comes to predictions. But Aaron, tell everyone where they can find you then, mate, before you go.
So you can find us on Albion Assessed via Spotify, YouTube, Twitter. Come and have a follow. And Jack, we'd love to have you on to review the Leicester game if you're free on Sunday. If you're free, mate, we'd like to have you on. We'll plan something. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll sort something out.
It depends what I'm doing after that result on Saturday.
Very true. Very true.
Appreciate it. Thank you for coming on, Aaron.
Pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Good luck for the rest of the season after tomorrow, of course.
You guys, of course, yeah, no doubt. And to you both.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, pal.
That was Aaron. Great analysation on Brighton and Leicester. And it's good to get different fans' opinions on Leicester because we're just Leicester fans who give opinions on our own team, but obviously away fans as well. It's good to get their opinions on Leicester as well. But it should be a good game at the King Power. I've gone for a draw. It will be a very toxic atmosphere, if we bloody go behind. So tomorrow, 3-1 Leicester to the super mighty Leicester. Keep the faith. I'm going to keep the faith, of course. Up the Albion, says Albion says. Definitely get you on, Jack. And I appreciate that. Guys, before I go, smash a like for me. If you enjoyed the stream tonight, it's quite a few of you watching. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already and you're new to the channel, enjoy our content. Please go and hit that subscribe button for me. It's really much appreciated. What's coming on the final whistle then? So we've got the matchday vlog. Leicester v Brighton. I'll be at the King Power tomorrow, cheering on the boys. So the matchday vlog will be out after the game. Fingers crossed, we've actually picked something positive up out the game. But we'll see. Leicester, don't go and let us down. Not after the bloody Forest defeat. I mean, I couldn't have took that. I couldn't have stomached it after that game. But we've also got the review. We've got the Leicester v Brighton review coming up as well on the final whistle. And we'll have a match preview for Walsall versus Leicester as well. But no, appreciate everyone watching. Thank you for everyone watching. Great stream. Appreciate it. Appreciate everyone who's... I'll bell you back after I've finished. Give me about 10 minutes, man. But yeah, thank you for watching, everyone. This is Jack from the Final Whistle saying good night. And come on, the Foxes. Bye-bye for now, everyone. Take care.